Okay, welcome back, you guys. Now we're going to go into the nuclear aspect of, I guess, this lecture. And I have some jokes here, so bear with me. I'm not trying to be insensitive. So, nuclear power, or as, come on, George W. Bush, nuclear. He says it wrong all the time, which is funny. So I made fun of a Republican. Now let's make fun of a Democrat. So I have a Baractopus, an abominable snowman. Abominable. Okay, I'm done with that. So, you guys have probably seen this projection a million times in John's class. A lot of people use this. Energy consumption by fuel. If you notice, natural gas is going up, coal is coming down, renewables, excluding biofuels, are going up, and so is nuclear. So let's talk about that for a couple of reasons. So, nuclear energy policy worldwide is kind of hit or miss, okay? Because nuclear energy has a lot of implications, and it's not, if it fails catastrophically, it's worse so than other things. So, if you notice, North America area, we have operating reactors. We're planning on building new ones, or are currently, mainly Mexico, US, Canada. South America, same thing. Brazil, Argentina, they have nuclear reactors. They're planning on building more. Africa, there's in the north, no nuclear reactors, and a lot of the EU, United Nations, are hesitant for people building nuclear reactors, like Iran. If you notice, and if you follow any political science at all, there was just legislation trying to get Iran nuclear policy going. But then you have the EU, which is kind of hard to see. So, you have various, like Germany trying to phase out nuclear reactors. You have, I think that's Austria, Switzerland, where it's illegal to have nuclear reactors. But then you have a place like France, who gets like 75% of its energy from nuclear reactors. So it's kind of hit or miss. The EU is very torn about this, and because there's a couple like with nuclear energy byproducts. Not necessarily the energy produced, but the waste products that we get out of it. So I just want to, demonstrate that where it's kind of spread across the board. So these are all the nuclear reactors in the world. Currently, you have one, like South Africa, Europe, mainly concentrated. Japan has quite a bit. Korea, and North America. Mexico has one, I believe, only one. Canada has 3. Not quite sure. I think they have 3. So here we go. So users of nuclear energy, and then percent of their generation. So look at the France. Wah! So the width of the bar is the number of plants they have, and the height, it represents the percent generated of their total electrical consumption. So France, up here, big one. Around 75% of their electricity is within nuclear energy. Japan, right under 30%. South Korea, a little over. But look at the U.S. width-wise. This is amount of nuclear energies. We get a little less than 20%. Virginia gets a lot of its energy from nuclear energy plants. Lake Anna was actually built as a cooling station for the power of the nuclear power plant. So if anybody knows Lake Anna, which is outside of Roanoke area, there is a hot side of the lake and there is a cold side of the lake. So the nuclear plant draws from the cool side to cool its reactors, and then it dishes the water out. After it gets to the pond, it's a little under 100 degrees F. So it's kind of a cool system that we've engineered. So France derives 75% of its electricity from nuclear energy, the world's largest net exporter of electricity due to low cost of production. We'll talk about the cost here in a second. Recycles waste as new fuel elements. We'll also talk about that. They're low waste. They can generate enough electricity for a family of 4 using electricity for 20 years that produces a waste container the size of a cigarette lighter. So like a Bic lighter, which doesn't seem like a lot, but if you have 1 million cigarette lighters, gets kind of crazy. That'd be 4 million people. Okay, so Virginia and nuclear power. So we have 3 nuclear power plants, Lake Anna, or North Ann Nuclear Generating Station, SM1, and then Surrey Nuclear Power Plant. So we almost have 40% of our electricity generated by nuclear power. So, breakdown, because everyone cares about the cost, which is why Walmart is still in business. So if you had to pay natural gas, which would be 4.5 cents, or you could pay, I don't know, maybe let's just an eighth of that for your electricity, you would definitely go for that, right? This will cost you 1/8 ish the cost of, let's say, natural gas or coal. So that seems like a no-brainer, right? This is as 2011. But we run into some other problems, like how do we dispose of the waste? This is a major concern because bioterrorism, of Superfund sites, just environmental health in general. So one method would be deep geological storage. And if anyone has heard of Yucca Mountain, I don't know if anyone has. It was built as a repository for all of this nuclear waste, and it is the most geological stable area in the continental United States. Remoteness, earthquake, seismicity, things like that. So the Yucca Mountain is a nuclear fuel high-level waste repository. It's a secure repository for, let's say, 60 reactors around the country. It was an old atomic bomb testing site inside of a mountain. The storage is above the water tables, so it's not going to be affecting the water table. The Yucca Mountain would be 60% filled by present waste if we took all of the waste in our country and put it in here. The United States government has a legal commitment to the reactor industry. The site was studied for around 20 years, and they're claiming that the stuff will decay in around 10,000. There are some major concerns like deflect dripping water around and under storage containers, radioactive decay weakening the concrete containers, so things like that. So this is just Yucca Mountain. It's fairly deep inside of a mountain. It's mainly like a shuttle car system type thing. There's trains under the mountain. But federal funding was cut in 2010. So why 2010? Because we had a new president, Barack Obama. So the $30 billion that we had spent to build Yucca Mountain was no longer pursued as an option. Just saying. But that's the prerogative of a president, that he can change the direction of the company. But it's just kind of silly that we spent 20 years developing and researching this, and we're not going through with the already built plan. Okay, so main elements that we use to generate nuclear energy: uranium, obviously, is a primary method for generating nuclear energy. So splitting U-235 creates heat. The heat turns water into steam, which spins a turbine, driving a generating coil, thus producing electricity. It's virtually the same as any other power plant. It just uses the splitting of U-235 to generate the heat rather than, let's say, coal, natural gas, wood. So the other one that we talk a lot about, thorium. So thorium is more abundant in nature in uranium. It's fertile rather than fissile. We'll talk about that later. It can only be used as a fuel in conjunction with fissile materials such as recycled plutonium. So thorium fuels breed with U-233, can be used with various kinds of nuclear reactors. Normally molten salt reactors are well suited for this thorium fuel. Things like that. We'll talk about more in a minute. So let's just talk about the benefits, and then we'll talk about some other things. So it's way more abundant than uranium. Virginia, actually, in southwestern part near us, has one of the richest uranium deposits in the world. We have not been able to mine it due to government regulations and opposition, but that's another story. So it's more abundant than uranium. It's less favorable for weapons production. It's harder to make dirty bombs out of it. And it's a relatively more even playing field. There are less restrictions because of weaponization. So India has a lot, Turkey, Brazil, Australia, US, China. You should always talk about China, Russia, the stands have some as well, Sweden. So nuclear fission. So there's two S's in fission, so it splits two apart. That's an easy way that I remember. So two S's, therefore it splits into two parts. Fission means to divide. So nuclear fission is the process of splitting a nucleus into two smaller masses. Okay, so we're going to stop right here, and we'll continue on in a minute because I am about to run out of my 10-minute mark. Give me a minute.